Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Are the Solution 128 with Mr. Star. Today's date is July 28, 2016. Feel free to visit our Facebook group and page titled We Are the Solution 128. We are part of the Diamonds Network created by Elizabeth Diamond. You can call in to listen to and participate in calls live on Monday night at 7:30 Central. That's the main call. And Tuesday nights at 7:30, we have Voices from the Alternative World with Dale and Sunny. Wednesday nights at 8:30 Central is the Candy Shop Show with Candy Carroll. And every other Thursday nights, we have Cynthia, Marianne, and Mare to give us some beautiful astrological and spiritual upliftment to help us through these intense energies that many of us are experiencing. And every other Thursday night, you can catch We Are the Solution 128 with Miss Lynn Starr, where the main focus will be, at least in some roundabout way, natural and organic healing of mind, body, and spirit. We really appreciate you joining our call, either live or on our YouTube channel. Live call-in number is 641-715-3836. Enter code 883-267-pound. If you can't make the live show, you can call the recorded playback line at 641-715-3813, and that's code number 883-267-pound. So tonight, I really want to welcome our guest, who is Hildegard Gemeiner. And she is an intuitive awareness and wellness consultant, writer, poet, and broadcaster. Hildegard was born and raised in an extended family environment on a farm in Germany. Her professional background is in languages, international trade, as well as in broadcast journalism. She lived and worked in Europe, South Africa, and Canada, where she raised her 4 now-grown children, ages 22 to 30. In her early 30s, during many near-death experiences, she became aware of her true non-physical source essence self. Since then, she has been receiving ongoing telepathic guidance from her cosmic brother, Lumiere, a seventh-dimensional consciousness scientist from Booth Andromeda Galaxy. Following his guidance, Hildegard was able to regain her health and raise her children against all expert medical prognosis given at the time. Hildegard is an intuitive awareness and wellness consultant. She uses her extrasensory perceptions and insights into the non-physical aspects of the human being to facilitate the discovery of her client's inner essence, voice, and wisdom. Her goal is to assist her client in learning how to live guided from within rather than being an unconscious victim of the logical, conscious mind alone. Hildegard addresses challenges regarding cosmic paranormal experiences, relationships, physical and spiritual health, and parenting. Her goal at present is to help 1,000 families generate an additional $1,000 a month in residual income by sharing products and opportunities which facilitate balance in balance in mind, body, and spirit. Hildegard is intending to publish one of her book manuscripts, Never Enough, The Story of a Planet Reborn, this year. She is also putting a collection of poems together and is currently writing a book about her personal journey. Furthermore, she is collaborating with a group of people who are envisioning to create a TV show about people who have had paranormal experiences such as her own. Oh, my. So please, I just want to say thank you so much for coming, Hildegard. Please help me welcome Hildegard Gemeiner.
Well, thank you so much, Misty, for giving me the opportunity to be with you tonight. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I thank you. I've heard you and I have had that chances to speak, and I so appreciate talking with you, and the things that I've learned are just so interesting and amazing, and I just wanted to, I thought I just really need to bring you on, onto my show too. So thank you so much. We have also, Sunny is with us as well, and a few other people have joined us, and I just kind of wanted to welcome you again. And is there anything on your heart right now at this moment? I just loved reading your bio, and there's so much I really could ask you about and talk with you about. But how is it going where you are? At least I could start with that.
Well, very well, thank you. Lots is going on, and what I would like to maybe start off with is that I am just an ordinary person who in some point in my life had serious challenges, where my health seemed to disappear, the world that I was comfortable in as a stay-at-home mom with 3 little children at the time who were all under the age of 6, came suddenly to an end. As you mentioned, I had many experiences where the body kind of broke away, collapsed underneath me, and at moments where I saw the physical body lying there, the neighbors came running, or I collapsed on an escalator and I could see the other shoppers or the staff of the department store running to that physical body, but I was no longer in it. I was in a state of iridescent light, and my initial reaction always was, I wanted to cover my eyes because the light was so bright. And then I realized, oh my God, I was trying to kind of pat down my body, and I realized I don't have a body. And I went from, oh my God, I'm dead, hooray, all of these doctor's appointments and all of these drugs and all of this back and forth is over. And then in the next thought, I thought, oh, no, I can't be stopped. Everything needs to stop. I can't be dead. I need to be back with these boys. And I remember thinking, how can I be dead but still think the way I used to think when I had a body? And how can it be that I can hear something in the distance? I heard a voice in the distance, kind of at where the source of this bright light was, and I could hear that voice, and I'm going, how do you hear without ears? And I had all these thoughts running through my head all at the same time, and then I thought, well, this guy over there makes sense. I'm going to go and talk to him, and maybe he can make me go back or something like that. And then I felt this overwhelming cashmere sweater hug feeling. Again, how do you feel if you don't have a skin and a body to feel, Mm-hmm. And so from that very moment on, many, let's call it strange things, because in those days, I knew nothing about spirituality. I didn't know about extrasense perception. I didn't know that the body is a non-local field of energy and consciousness that can reach in the furthest spaces of the universe. And simultaneously, this essence lives in different dimensions all at the same time. I didn't know any of that. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very hard and confusing time, because when it happened the second time, I think, when I was surrounded by 12 beings that had long platinum-colored hair. Their skin was light in color, much like a Caucasian on planet Earth, and their eyes were maybe twice the size of ours, a little bit more almond-shaped than ours, and they had like a blue pupil, and they looked so young, these people, 4 on each side of my body and 2 by my feet and 2 behind my head. And in that experience, I had some sort of a whitish body, and I was lying on this table, and they were telling me that I was a walk-in. I had volunteered to walk in from 7th-dimensional Andromedan reality into the 3D physical body of that woman that was married to this German man and had 3 little children and, you know, lived in the suburbs of Toronto. And when I then, of course, became conscious, awake in the physical body and had the emergency physicians talk to me, tell me what happened, where were you, what did you experience? And I was telling them, you know, I'm a 7th-dimensional Andromedan scientist from Andromeda Galaxy. My home planet is Botes. And, you know, I've been being downstepped into a 3D carbon-based body from previously having been in a crystalline body environment and whatever. You know, you can very well imagine how well that went down with the medical system, right? So that was the beginning of the end as far as my perfect middle-class lifestyle was concerned, because it didn't help my marriage. It didn't help my relating to other people in my environment. They were used to me being and speaking and doing things a certain way. Yet I had, in fact, 2 people, or call it 2 voices in my head. I had Ashta Asina. She was going to coach and mentor me as to how to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because I had no concept of that. And, you know, whatever it takes for somebody who has 3 little children to function. You know, you go and how to do groceries and how to diaper your baby and help the children with the homework and stuff like that. And then Louis Marr was the person that I heard as well, who was giving me a simple instruction, and that was, rule number 1, you are going to get help to raise these children to the light, and later on, you will have to share all that you have learned and experienced. And you volunteered for this task, and it takes a while to integrate the new energy into the physicality. And Ashta Sina was the lady who was there to help me with all the practical things. And about 2 years, I guess, 2 or 3 years, and then she was no longer part of it. It was simply Louis Marr communicating with me through my journal, because initially I didn't know what to make of all of these voices in my head, because my conditioned mind, it was genuinely protesting when I wanted to listen to what came from the spaceship, so to speak. Louis Marr is in charge of making sure that the walk-ins get the support they need, because apparently walk-ins are at a very high risk of destroying the body through suicide initially. Not all, but apparently I was very stubborn and couldn't make sense out of anything and had a hard time integrating. Whether this is true for all walk-ins, I don't know. But I had quite a while in my 3D body where all I could think of, beam me up, or maybe I should take the car off the road. But what was magical, and that's why I probably chose also to move into the body that had 3 children, was the children that were so, I was in awe of the children, even though the first time I had fainted and my husband then at the time brought me home from the hospital, none of which I remembered. Like, I didn't remember this man being my husband. I couldn't relate to the children. I couldn't relate to the clothes on my back. But what fascinated me was the enthusiasm and the joy and the brilliance of the energy of these children, which was so contrary to what I had experienced in the hospital and even on the drive home from the hospital with a person who was said to be my husband and had been that for over a decade. And so
just so I'm clear, you didn't have any recollection of him?
Very little.
Very little.
Like I was told he is my next of kin. He is my husband, and I'm going home with him. But there was no emotional connection, and even the physical appearance initially was, who's this? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That because I had instantly the second voice that said to me, it's all part of the deal. Relax. Be quiet. It's all good. We'll walk you through this. You are not alone. It will get better in time. I learned to be a little bit more patient with the process. But it couldn't be avoided that eventually the marriage had to collapse because I was then changing the way I was doing things. I was changing the way I did breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I threw the hair shampoos and the aftershave lotion and, the household cleansers and what I believe to be poisonous food out of the fridge because I knew from the vibration that I was now embodying that a lot of these things were petrochemically laden and they were not helping me raise my vibration and healing the physicality. And so there were obviously collisions that came about in the marriage and in my relationship to my biological family as well, because my mom and dad, who were overseas, did not approve that the physical separation and divorce was going to happen because I was raised in the Catholic tradition and Catholics don't divorce, that type of thing. Anyway, so that gave you a little bit of
It did. I wonder if you would mind explaining more exactly what a walk-in is. Like, I've read a bit about it. I know other people who know about it, but I just would like to have a better understanding. And maybe somebody else would too.
So my understanding of what a walk-in is first of all, the human being has something inside of it, her or him. Some call it soul. I like to use it the term hard drive because people can relate to a computer. You have a hardware and you have the software. And the soul or the heart, the software inside the human body, which animates the body, is what actually exists in a world beyond the third dimension. So there is many aspects of your soul existing in different worlds and different realities. And what a walk-in is, the way I understand it, is, and in my case, an aspect of my soul self was in the body until age 33. That soul spark needed only that many years in the physicality. It chose to leave that physicality to expand its learning somewhere else. And this one, which animates Hildegard's body now, came in. It's kind of, you're getting a software upgrade.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
But, so, I guess I would have considered that to be something like a higher self a higher self activation or a light body. No, not exactly light body. But it's not the same thing. Is it just more realizing more your higher self now? Because you knew that those foods were poisonous. I mean, we have a lot of people have like a natural aversion to some things, and it's not like a hysteria. It's not like oh, I think this is bad. It's I know this is bad to have. Like I've watched wonderful videos about how to heal cancer, and one of the things, like naturally, and one of the steps is to get rid of all the poisonous toxins in your home, the cleaning supplies, and some shampoos and products and different things. But you just instinctively knew that these things weren't good, and certain foods. And did you change you probably changed your diet or?
Everything about life changes. Even my physical appearance changed. But to clarify maybe the way I see it, and again, I'm not the expert at anything, and God knows I need help with my own life as well. But my understanding of the higher self and the difference between just tuning into your higher self and what's a walk-in, even the walk-in essence will use the higher self to communicate with, let's say, Louis Ma on the spaceship or the Andromedans. So the higher self is an integral part of the human vessel. So the human vessel communicates via the soul self, let's call it the inner software, the heart essence, through the higher self. And the higher self signals out into the different realms. And through the higher self, we are bringing in a different understanding and a different knowing. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, we first and foremost have to be willing to ask. You see, the key to all of this was that I, in my 3D world, before I walked in, I had reached a point where nobody had answers for me. The medical system was right out of answers. The religions, everything I'd been told, nothing worked for me anymore. And they were just experimenting with all sorts of theories, and I ended up being put on more and more drugs. Mm-hmm. And none of it helped. Much to the contrary, I was sitting on a chair staring in a corner like a zombie. Thank God we had a little dog that needed to be walked. Otherwise, I would have never gotten off the chair to put the kids to kindergarten or school or do anything at all. And it was when I'd reached that breaking point and I asked for guidance, that's when the exchange happened. So I believe it is really what the individual is open to experience. That then determines what's happening in our life next. Because the soul has made the plan before. It's not that we are victims of anything. None of that could have happened if on a deep soul essence level I hadn't planned that for this lifetime.
Do you mind sharing, was there a main thing that was the root cause of, what caused what happened with you? Because you said you had several near-death experiences, but at age 33, was there a major event that happened?
Well, it was set on. I had my third son at age 32 or something. And I was 200 pounds with the baby. My body was full of water. My face looked like a moon at full moon. My two little feet together looked like a big elephant foot. I was full of water. Every step, it felt like there were knives pushing from the inside into the skin. And I was severely ill. And what surprised me is that the care I was given at the time, the caregivers didn't see there was something wrong. They said, well, you're retaining water and you're borderline diabetic. And my gynecologist at the time, I remember him saying, well, if you don't stop drinking pop and get off the couch and stop eating potato chips, you'll never have natural childbirth. And I exploded at this man, and I said, listen, you don't have a clue about anything, do you? with 2 kids under 5, who can lie on the couch, drink pop all day and eat potato chips? You are totally out of touch with my world. And that's when I just left and I said, you know what, I'd rather die and give birth on the sidewalk than set foot in another hospital. And that's when I looked for a midwife, which in 1991 in Ontario were not legal yet. But I found this lady who already had helped 166 people give birth. And so I was her 167th birth, and at 34 weeks in pregnancy, 36 weeks, so it was only just 4 more weeks for me to deliver. She took me on, and what transpired in these 4 weeks was lack of self-love, lack of self-care. I need to make time to nurture myself. No more house cleaning and no more decorating the baby's room and no more gardening and no more this. You do the bare necessities and the house is not going to go under if you don't, vacuum for the next couple of months. And in those days, I was a very perfectionistic German woman who wanted to have everything perfect. I wanted to have the perfect home, the perfect family. I cooked 3-course meals 3 times a day, but I never really got to sit down and eat any of it. So then after the child was born, I lost 100 pounds in less than 6 months without even trying.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I realized something is wrong. But when I collapsed and fainted, all the medical system was telling me, well, look at you. You look like a supermodel. People would kill to look like that after 6 months, having given birth just a little while back. And so they didn't take me serious at all. And so that set on a lot of this. And I think really the underlying scheme was that the soul essence occupying this body lacked self-respect and self-love and had serious self-worth issues, which I then also, in the years to come, had to deal with and had to heal and overcome. And that was part of the journey that I took on. And this is why, in my bio I said I needed to learn to trust my inner guidance.
Uh-huh.
Don't focus outside and listen to what other people are telling you. They're not in your shoes. They don't know how it feels to be in your skin. You are the only person that feels what it feels like being you and being in your situation and being in your skin. And that was the turning point for me when I realized, why do I believe other people more than my inner knowing? Why? How did I get here? I thought I've done everything right. And then I realized, no, the beliefs I operated on were not even mine. The values I was carrying were not mine. They were that of my husband or my mother or society at large. But I was just living a life by default, stumbling from one situation in the other without really knowing that I had a right to speak up and create life my way.
Wow. And you realized this just through your life experience and on your own, and correct?
Well, I realized, among other things, through the guidance of Louis Marr, because through my voracious journaling in the early days, I wouldn't do anything unless I had journaled it. Once it was on paper, I looked at it and I thought, can I do that? Do I want to do that or do I not want to do that? And then I made a decision to do that. And what was given to me early on in life was his children's story, Never Enough, the story of a planet reborn. And that came to me shortly after I'd taken my children and ran away from my marriage, which on the outside was picture perfect, but I lived a life of quiet desperation and isolation. And I had to just grab the kids and go while the going was good, because the medication and what the medical system was doing, I assumed that I was heading straight for the mental hospital. And so I didn't want to be on these psychotropic drugs, and I just disappeared from my marriage. And in those days, these first early days, my health wasn't so good. I didn't have a source of income, yet I had a huge overhead. I just had money for the first and last month's rent, and I didn't know where the next penny was coming from. And, of course, I was scared of my own shadow. And that's when one night I said, God, Muhammad, Allah, Buddha, I don't care who you are, whoever can listen to my prayer, please give me help. I need help. And it would be a great thing if you could show yourself now. And then in the middle of the night, one evening, kids were asleep already, I'm sleeping. I felt this hand on my shoulder, and there was no adult in the house. I was the only adult in this townhouse, and the kids were sleeping in the level below, and then we had a little puppy dog. And the voice spoke to me in French, and I hadn't spoken French in over 10 years. And I was told to go and get out the typewriter and write down what I was hearing. And so I was dictated this story in French, jamais assez, never enough. And the next morning, when I woke up, I'm going, have I been sleep wondering what is all of this? And then I read the story, and I'm going, oh my goodness, what is that? This useless story. I couldn't appreciate what it was about. But then I decided to put it in English, because maybe, if nothing else, it would make a good night story to my children. And when I read it to the children, the oldest one said, Mommy, who cares about your terrible life? The second one said, oh, that's a nice princess story. And then the little one, who was barely 2, said, oh, Mommy, I saw a butterfly outside. I want to fly on the butterfly, because the heron flies off on the magical butterfly into the universe to find a solution to her planet's problem. Now, the take-home message of the story was, do you operate out of fear, or do you operate on emotions of love? And I didn't understand that. That took me a while to get that this was actually what there was to learn, because I got into situations where I had to make decisions, but I didn't have facts upon which I could make a logical decision. But the decision was necessarily nonetheless. It was to be made. And then whenever I journaled, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Should I do this? Should I do that? I'm so confused, and I have to have I have a deadline, and I need to have an answer by then or else. And then the message came always loud and clear from within: read the story. And the message was, if your thoughts are laden with guilt, shame, blame, judgment, jealousy, anger, hatred, resentment, the decision is wrong. If you make your decision coming from respect, love, appreciation, gratitude, the love emotions, the vibrations of love, then you make the right decisions. And that's how I was, one baby step after another, mentored into sorting out the 60,000 thoughts. Deepak Chopra says human being has 60,000 thoughts a day. The problem with that is that 60,000 thoughts we have today, we most likely had yesterday and the day before, and then we get frustrated that our life doesn't get any better. And that, when I realized that, I'm going, it's so true. If I want to focus on what's wrong in my life, and trust you me, there's always something wrong in our lives, no matter how good we have it. We can focus on what's wrong, and where our focus goes, energy flows. So that will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Or we put our focus on that which we want to create. We focus on, my right leg wasn't working at the time, so I take the kitchen broom and I can start to be grateful that I still have the left leg to walk on. Mm-hmm. And so this was this inner work that needed to happen to get rid of my stinking thinking, because obviously everybody else was living the perfect life in my eyes. And if it wouldn't have been for my husband or the doctor or my parents would have raised me right, then I wouldn't be in that situation. And for the longest time, I could not see that I had created it. I couldn't take responsibility for the mess that I was in. Mm-hmm. I was so full of blame, or if my husband would just come home on time, my life would be perfect. Or if my parents would have raised me differently, or if. And these are all very disempowering, fear-based ways of thinking. Mm-hmm. But I had majority of thoughts in that vibratory space, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I find my children's story, it was really a blessing in disguise, but it took me about a year or so to really be able to appreciate how, when we're stepping out on the spiritual path, how the universe communicates to us. It doesn't come with a ghetto blaster and saying, turn left, turn right, do this. We have to become still. We have to start to tame our monkey mind, which is constantly predicting disaster, because that's what we have been conditioned to see the world as. At least, I shouldn't say we. I had been conditioned to believe that I am little, that I can't do anything, that I need to have somebody to look out for me or make the decisions for me. And when I realized that my reality, the way it is actually an accumulation of the consequences of the choices I have made in the past. Oh. Now, some of these choices might have been conscious, but a lot of those choices were unconsciously made. Mm-hmm. And so when that became clear, I realized that I had an opportunity to, just by changing one thought, then follow that with one different action, then the accumulative effect of that would bring about an ever-improving reality. And that is, in essence, the miracle, I think, of life. When I become aware that I can't do anything about changing the world out there. Mm-hmm. The only thing I have control over is how I choose to perceive what's going on out there and what's going on in my interaction with other people. People behave the way people behave. They do what they do, but the true power lies in choosing and have that stillness to decide, is a reaction to this required? If so, I can choose to react in a calm and considered way, or I can choose to decide, oh no, it's just somebody else's issue. It doesn't even need to be responded to, and then use my energies to create that which I want to create, the new vision, the new future that I would like to see. And in my case, I had no other vision initially other than to just physically survive and stick around as long as possible so I could raise these children.
Mhm.
And
I wonder if your amnesia helped you, to achieve that, all that you achieved since then? Because perhaps with that amnesia, you didn't have that baggage weighing down of, some of the things, maybe memories and different things that maybe had consumed your mind and thoughts before. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I think initially it probably did, but a lot of the memories in due time did come back. And the cellular memory of those self-destructive behavior patterns, they were also in the body. So they needed to be dealt with in due time, one step after another. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right. Initially, I think me not remembering anything about the 3D world that I had been living in for 10 years was probably necessary for me to actually be willing to listen to the telepathic communication that was giving me the guidance that I needed. Mm-hmm. So that might very well have been part of the plan. Mm-hmm. But again, communicating this in a Western medical setting was a very difficult thing to do, because you got to put yourself in their situation. They have a certain frame of reference in which they operate, and if they have somebody that presents with an issue that they do not understand, then the only thing that they can do is say, "Oh, you're suffering from a mental illness." Mm-hmm. And I personally don't know where the line is between, let's say, a spiritual awakening. As you mentioned earlier, some people, they may not have a walk-in experience, but they have a soul awakening. That suddenly are able to become aware of their communication with their higher self. And that all in itself brings on a certain way of being that is so different from what they have lived maybe previously. So I'm not the expert on narrowing down where is spiritual awakening and where is mental illness, I don't know. However, when I'm looking at how quickly people jump to, oh, that is an ADD, or this is an autistic problem, or this is a neurological disease, or you are, bipolar, or all of these labels that are kicked around so quickly, and then people are told they need to take these medications. I am not sure whether this is all necessary, which is why I'm very happy that over the years I've came across a lot of wisdom and knowledge and people and products who help bring my personal vibratory rate up so that I was able to rebuild my body, and I'm a lot more confident in what's coming from within me now than ever before. Now, that doesn't mean I trust it blindly, but the simple, people asked me before, well, how do you know if you can trust that inner voice, especially when you are new to this, because you have this, your left brain tells you go to the right, and your right brain says go the other way. So how do you know what's right? And my motto is always, if it isn't against the laws of the land that you're living in the physical body, if it doesn't harm anybody, and if it doesn't leave any long-term damage to you or anybody else, then why not try a different thing? So, for instance, when Louis Ma was telling me, stop drinking coffee, no more sugar, no more dairy, no more wheat products, or better still, just go on a fast for a week. Don't eat at all. Now, I was a stay-at-home mom, 3 little children. This was very physical work. Mm-hmm. And, have to diaper an 18-month-old, and there's a lot of lifting and carrying. And initially I thought, are you insane? If I don't eat, I can't work at all. But what was amazing, I could do it.
You were still thinking that it was, that what you were eating was food, though, at that time, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But you see,
so did you change your diet, and you just started eliminating those things, and I imagine your diet became pretty much raw and vegetarian?
Well, I had already not been eating much of a meat eater all my life, even though I grew up on a dairy farm, and meat and potatoes and, was the way we grew up. But I'd never really liked meat to begin with, strangely enough. So I didn't really have a hard time eliminating the meat, but that wasn't really asked of me to eliminate the meat. Initially, what came was to stop drinking coffee, because my self-destructive nature in those days had me drink a ton of coffee, because the coffee would get the adrenaline going, and then I would get the energy, and then maybe I hit a Mars bar or went to one of the fast food places and bought something to eat on the road or something. If I didn't have time to eat, I would feed my children proper food, but oftentimes I was so preoccupied with them being clean and tidy and neat and had everything. By the time it was time to get out the door to get them where they needed to go, I hadn't eaten. And then the routine was to go through a drive-through and pick up a coffee and a bagel or something, and that was not enough for me to run on. And so I made my coffee. I took the coffee grounds, teaspoon of coffee grounds, teaspoon or two of sugar, white sugar, of course, and then put the water on it, and I would drink it. And it was interesting because one day I realized the reason why I was drinking the coffee the way I did was because it reminded me of being a little child sitting on my grandfather's lap. And it made me feel loved. And the minute I drew the connection to it's a displacement activity to trigger me back to when I was little and I needed the protection of my grandpa, I suddenly realized I was destroying myself with coffee, and I stopped it cold turkey. I didn't realize until I was probably 40 that I actually had been an anorexic woman most of my life. And I didn't know it. And to this day, if there's something upsetting, the first thing that will go, if I allow myself to react to it, is food. I forget to eat. So
How was it for you stopping, like, the coffee? Have you learned anything? Like, okay, so I'll tell you that, like, you have experienced this over the last couple of decades, and it's wonderful, amazing. I know a large group of people who have experienced what you're describing over just the last 3 years. Like, suddenly, intensely, quickly, going from one change to the other. And probably one of the things that, as they're making their changes, directed by their inner guidance, whatever that is to them, one of the things is always dietary, and they stop medications, stop drugs, stop smoking, stop the coffee. Eventually, they generally stop eating meat, and then go from vegetarian to vegan, and it just seems to be kind of a process. And sometimes they go back and forth. But I think that one of the similarities between a lot of people who are awakening now is that they have addiction issues, and we all do, whether it's drugs, caffeine, television, soda, whatnot. And do you have any guidance for people who, things that can help them to, things that helped you or that you've heard have helped other people to clear these things out and get over these addictions?
Well, you see, there was a time in my life when I thought I want to learn what my addiction is. But the word addiction, I thought was just injecting heroin or being an alcoholic, none of which applied to me. I didn't realize that you can be a sugarholic and a coffeeholic and a workaholic. And I actually went to a detox center here in Toronto. It's part from the Canadian Mental Health Association Detox Center, Queen Street West, to volunteer to learn about addiction. Because I've been to many doctors, I wanted to find out what my addiction is, and everybody told me you don't have one. And so then I helped, and the job I had, so the very severe cases were on the main floor, and I was on the third floor, where people were just about to be released, and they were, so to speak, clean, and I had to be part of creating lunch, and then hang out with them, clean up, and I would get an opportunity to just interview them. What have they been through, and so on and so forth. And it was in that kitchen where I then was doing the dishes, and the fellow who had told me he had been a heroin addict helped me dry the dishes, because the deal was the kitchen had to be clean. You couldn't have anything in the sink, right? And so this young man looks at me and he says, Hildegard, and he pulled my hands out of the dish soap. He said, what are you doing? I said, what? He says, you're destroying your hands. Look, they're all purple. Can you not feel anything at all? This water is way too hot. So this man told me about addictions, because he had kicked a whole lot of them. And he said, so after a heroin or hard drugs he was doing, he went on to a softer drug, which is alcohol, because it's readily available, right? And it's accepted, socially accepted. So then that didn't work. And so he had been into the detox center again for alcoholism. And then now that he kicked that, he got out again, got hooked on coffee, because that was the in thing. There's coffee shops all over the place. And so then he realized he had just come in and taken a couple of courses and so on and so forth, and he discovered, so the coffee and the sugary stuff was the next addiction he had to quit. And then he said, there's a last addiction you have to quit. And I told him, oh, listen, I'm off coffee, I'm off sugar, and I'm so perfect. And he said to me, yes, now you have to kick the adrenaline addiction. And that's when I started to pay attention, and that would be my, suggestion to people who are struggling with all sorts of addictions. Because addictions are an indication that we do not love and accept ourselves. We have some trauma, some pain, something deep within us that lets us believe that it's so scary to look there that we need to kind of paint it over with all sorts of activities to not have to feel these feelings. And one way we do that is by keeping busy. And when you look at my background, my parents grew up in the war. They were little children in the Second World War. There were bombs flying all over, houses destroyed. They were constantly in the fight and flight. Oh, my God, I have to run or I have to defend myself. So their brain chemistry became addicted to the fear energy, the fight and flight. And then because they were not aware that this is how they lived, they brought that energy on to us children, naturally through osmosis. When my mom would hear a commercial airline flying over our house, she immediately had this shaking going on. Or there were even starfighters going over our house a lot, because there was American, French, British, and Canadian air bases around the area we were living at the time. And they had their army fighter jets going, and they were super loud. And so whenever something like that went over our house, my mom would shrug. So it took me a long time to figure out that we adopt these patterns from our parents. So addictions are indications that there's something inside that we need to look at. And we can kick the addiction maybe even without looking at the pattern. But the minute I understand why I did almost 12 cups of coffee a day or more, the children would go to bed. Let's say the last one would finally sleep at 11 at night. I would go down to the kitchen, make another pot of coffee so I wouldn't fall asleep reading my favorite book, because that was my idea of fun. Mm-hmm. And then the coffee kicks in at about 1 in the morning, and then I'm thinking, well, at 3:30 the baby's going to cry. I might as well go downstairs and do a load of laundry. And so I went without sleep, right? And then when the body is so worn out, the adrenal gland kicks in to just keep us going a little bit more. So I think with addictions, one step at a time, look at it from a point of you are worthy, you are a powerful energy that animates the body, and you can choose to perceive yourself in a whole new way. And you have the power to draw towards you the help that you need. Because when the student is ready, the right person, the right teacher shows up. And that was, for me, the guy in the Queen West Detox Center telling me, my God, you are as numb as a doornail. Look at this. And he told me, you are an adrenaline junkie. If you can't feel and you don't shoot it, snort it, inject it, or have any other visible addiction, you are addicted to adrenaline. And the man was right.
Indeed.
And so you all was learning to, sit still and still my mind and learn how to sit still, breathe properly, all these things that, people already, it's all over the internet, how you can calm yourself down, how to do a diaphragm breath. You don't need to do meditation. I couldn't do meditation. I couldn't sit still without moving my limbs for 30 seconds. That was a huge thing. I set a timer for 30 seconds on a chair trying to keep my body still. I couldn't do it.
I think a lot of people are experiencing that, those kinds of symptoms these days, and probably will continue to do so. You offer consulting services, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So can you help? What kind of consulting services are they? Intuitive and law of attraction and that kind of thing? Can you help people with addictions and dealing with do you have a specialty?
The specialty actually is I hear from how people use words, sometimes where they are at, because the language is an expression of our conscious awareness. We can only express that which we are aware of. So oftentimes, generally the way I work is people talk to me and I get an impression. I see pictures. The human being has more than 5 senses. We have extra perception. We are clairvoyant. We are telepathic. We have kinesthetic abilities. We have all these intuitive hunches. Everybody knows that you're thinking of somebody and the phone rings. And it's that person you were just thinking about, right? So as we clean up our body, as we learn how to consciously bring cosmic energy into the body, if nothing else, inhale, push your belly out, hold your breath for a couple of seconds, and then exhale and flatten your belly. Do it ideally when you're lying down. The minute you put your focus on your breath, your little monkey mind has to focus on that. That will calm the whole system down, right? And so as we evolve, we then become more able to listen to our extra sense perception. So in the process of intuitive awareness consulting, people talk to me. I'll ask them, what is it that is hurting the most? we always start where the pain is. And then what is it that you would like to create in your life? What is missing or what needs to be transforming for you to feel better? Whether it's feeling physically better, emotionally better, financially better, but there's a point where we have to start. And then from that, we develop a concept and steps, small steps that the person can do. A lot of it is learning to communicate with self, to get clear, what is it that I actually want? What is it that I need? And a lot of times people don't know that they have a right to want something and they have a right to express their needs. And when they can embrace that, then we work on communication, on how to express my need to the world around so I can actually have them enrolled in my needs being met instead of going away and suffer in silence. So during the process of intuitive awareness consulting, I sometimes get an image of something. Like I had a client once, and she was concerned that her husband was going to leave her. And I said, so what makes you think that? And she says, I don't know. But whenever I'm talking to him, he kind of doesn't want to hear, and he goes to the other room and closes the door. And I saw this image of this woman. She looked like an Italian grandmother. She had her hands up in the air, and she was talking really loudly. And then I asked her, are you of Italian background? She said, yes. I said, is it correct that Italians express themselves oftentimes rather loudly and joyously, and they use their hands and everything? She said, yes. I said, what does this woman, elderly lady that I'm seeing, what does she have to do with any of this? And she says, I was raised by my grandmother. And I said, oh, interesting. And how about your husband? Is he Italian? And so she says, no. I said, well, did you ask your husband whether he likes loud voices and the typical, Italian way of expressing affection in a loud kind of voice, maybe? No. So we went through some communication training for her to be able to speak to him so he would feel safe enough to say, you scare the crap out of me. You're too loud. But he didn't know that it related, he was triggered to when he was a young child, and there was a lot of argument and fighting in the house between mom and dad. This he didn't know. He had never looked there. And so he had no ability to speak to his wife and say, look, sweetheart, I love you dearly, yet when you are speaking in that volume, I get scared. It reminds me of my mom and dad fighting, and, So these are the type of things that come out not because I know anything. It's just because I'm able to trust the pictures that come in and then convey them to the client and have them then use them if that works for them, I also do... go ahead.
No, and then they can interpret it for themselves. I know a lot of people, like, they say, oh, well, they're asking all these questions, like, say, they're asking all these questions. I don't think they're for real. And what because they think that they're leading or trying to find out more information, certain people in the field. And, I fully understand that it's a matter of you, in this case, can see things. You might not know exactly what you're seeing or why, but when you share it to the other person, then it might click something for them. And that's the reason that perhaps you ask questions or are guided to ask questions, just to help them to find out what it means to them, because it's their own personal message or guidance that's happening through you in a way that you can't really manipulate. You're just saying what you see with your, skill and abilities, and, which comes from all of your experiences. And also, so many people, when they have the near-death experiences and they experience those other dimensions, those other realms, and then they come back and they have these sensory stuff that other people can't see. And the thing of it is that it makes perfect sense, because you can't observe it until you're there at that point. For a moment or for a time, you were there and conscious of it and conscious of that interaction. So from then, that point forward, you would have that ability more easier to see those things. Correct?
Well, I think what happens often when people are willing to open themselves to their innate extrasense abilities, what will happen is more and more information flows in. It's if I open the door and invite all the neighbors in, there's a lot of people that can come in and give me information, right? So for me, if I have the intent to bring assistance to somebody so that they can become more self-reliant, I kind of invite the invisible world, so to speak, in to come and show himself to help this person, because if all is connected, which it is undoubtedly, the grandmother of this particular woman, for instance, she wants her granddaughter to be happy and healthy and have a wonderful marriage and a nice life. So in me being the intermediary that then gives the client that picture, then they understand, oh my God, my grandmother. And by remembering their grandmother, they are opening themselves again to that guidance as well. But they need to be able to trust their intuition in times to come, so that they don't need people like me anymore. See, I'm not interested in people talking to me forever and ever and ever. If you want to talk to me for an hour and a half and that helps you, yes, that's what I want. I don't need people to be dependent on me. Then it's just another crutch. Whether you're dependent on a drug or on your psychiatrist or whatever, you're still not fully self-actualizing. You're not using your own abilities. And my desire is to facilitate the process so the human can listen to their inner wisdom and then go in the times to come and say, oh, I have a hunch about this, or even though my logic says I need to do that, I don't feel like it. And there is nobody who suffers if I don't do that. I'm going to do something else instead. And once you learn to do that, life becomes so magical. And it's not hocus pocus. It's things start to happen. Coincidences happen. You know, look how you and I met. My left brain could have never orchestrated that.
Absolutely. And, you know, I mean, that is being, in my opinion, like the top thing for being in service to others. Because the more people that we have who connect with themselves and their higher power and their inner knowing and learn how to discern and all of that, the quicker the world will change around us. But it starts with, it's just one person at a time. So I think it's wonderful, and I always go for, you know, we want to be everybody to be at a point where they're their own guru.
Exactly. And it's one person at the time, absolutely, Missy. Yeah. And the one person is, guess what? It's you. I don't know which book I read it in, whether it was a Catholic Bible or a Lutheran Bible or the Quran or some of the holy books I read. It said, I think it was Jesus Christ saying something like, the biggest gift you can give to humanity is to know thyself.
Mm-hmm.
Know thyself, and then all the doors to all the knowledge of the universe will be open to you. So I don't have to go and rescue everybody, but by me being the highest expression of who I as a soul essence, let's say, can be, and I draw from wherever, whether it's from Andromeda or it's your higher self that comes in, and then you use that insight to heal your body, to love, to accept yourself the way you are. And then from that point of gratitude and self-respect and appreciation, your energetic vortex, as Esther Hicks, she channels the Abraham messages, it says, when you're then in your unique vortex, then everything will come to you, provided you keep your mental focus on being worthy of having it and deserving it in the first place.
Indeed. Indeed. So if people would like to experience your or are interested in consulting services with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, you can contact me via my website, Higher Awareness, HIREAWARENESS.com. Or they could also email me, and that's HVONBOOTS. So Hildegard van Botes, HVBOOTS @gmail.com. And we will be in touch. Or maybe they can contact you and you can forward the information.
Wonderful. Can you please just go ahead and give those two addresses again for me, please?
Yeah. So the website is www and then HIRE, higher, and then awareness, AWARNESS.com. And that's a play on words, like by yourself awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is H Van Botes, so HV, so Victor, Ontario, Norman, and then Bob, Ontario, Tom, Edward, Sam, @gmail.com.
Wonderful, thank you. And I wanted to ask you, one of the best things I think we can do for ourselves, is a higher vibrational diet, detoxing our bodies. I've experienced it a number of times. It is one of the fastest ways that I can get into the higher vibrations. And I understand that you have a product that you also are a distributor for. And I'm very interested in hearing about this product. I've heard a little bit about it already. But can you talk about some of the benefits of, are you in agreement that detoxing is one of the best things to do? Like, I'm in the process right now of doing a 3-day detox, and then I'll just continue from there every day doing some various different things. But I really want to get my body clear and my mind. What's your opinion about that?
Well, you see, two things. First of all, what can you do to bring your vibration up? Take just 5 minutes a day where you don't answer the phone, there's no emails, there's nobody talking to you. It could be on a park bench, or it could be you're sitting in your car in a parking lot before you go somewhere else. Take 5 minutes to acknowledge yourself, or preferably do something that you enjoy. You may just sit in your car and listen to a song with your eyes closed. You're sitting on your parking lot, you're not doing anything. Take a little bit of me time. Or if you know you enjoy bubble baths, which used to be the thing at the time, having little kids and didn't go anywhere for any length of time. When everybody was asleep, I'd like to put an Epsom salt in my bath, and then I put some bubble bath, and I would just lie in my bathtub and enjoy. And that was my me time. Even if you're having family responsibilities, let your family know that between this and that time, it's the time for mom. You will just have to wait. And you may even want to take a little alarm clock and set it in front of your door if you have a special place that you want to be alone in, maybe your meditation room or your bedroom, and take a little time out for you and do it once a day. Make an appointment with yourself where you do things that makes your soul, that feeds your soul, so to speak. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because as you do that, you are actually transforming your energy. You're telling your vibrational escrow, I begin valuing myself, and I will do more and more to feed myself first so that I then can give from that overflowing cup to others. And that to me is really important to do. Now, with respect to detoxification, obviously, when the body is alkaline, your immune system is strong, you're not as susceptible to any kind of illness. And so it's a good thing to work as much as you can to bring the body to an alkaline state. And you can measure it. There are, in the health food stores, you have these strips, right, these alkaline strips. You can take them, take a bit of spit, put them on, and you can see where you are at. So that is something that is an ongoing thing, that you make sure you have foods that help you become alkaline versus acidic, because acidity, when you have too much acidity in the body, that's when illness can strike. And now, with respect to the product, one of the products that I highly recommend, it's an all-in-one powdered food source, and it has a lot of antioxidants in it. It has ingredients that energize the body, that rebuild damaged cells, and then it has a load of antioxidants such as goji, noni, blueberries, all of these good things that help prevent premature cell aging and cell death, and hopefully it'll keep you well for a longer time. And what is unique about this product is that it has stabilized rice bran in it. And this company has managed to stabilize the rice bran, which in itself is a superfood. So what I've found is that, especially when we are under a lot of stress, we have lots of things to do, maybe even multiple jobs to make ends meet, we are running out of energy. And we sometimes forget to take all the supplements we bought at a health food store, and none of these supplements work together. So this takes the guesswork out of it, and it has also a slight detox component in it. So it's not like a cleanse, but ever so slowly, people report when they take the product that they have to go to the bathroom more often. And over time, they will drink less coffee, or they are more inclined to skip the snack at, the fast food place because they had their zeal in a purse, and they mix it with water, drink it, and then it ties them over until they get home to cook their supper. So there's one good way to help yourself. And I think what I was not aware of 20 years ago, and it's increasingly becoming obvious now, doesn't matter how good your food is, you are eating proper meals, let's say everything you buy is organic, which is very difficult to do for me here in Canada. I don't know how to live in a land like California. Maybe it's more readily available. But even then, our soils have been depleted. We hurry our crops. There's transportation from, the beautiful walnuts out of California until they come here to us, or the bananas that come from Costa Rica, or the mangoes coming from wherever. So there's all sorts of chemical interference that depletes the value, the nutrient value in the foods that we do have access to, not to mention the cost of it. So this company, Zovida, has brought the zeal out at an incredibly reasonable price, and the results people are getting is just incredible. For me, I was introduced to it shortly after my mom had passed away and I had been overseas. And life in Canada had gone sideways simultaneously. And I was seriously sad, depressed, frustrated, didn't know what to do. When I was introduced to that, I was not very much interested in any of these things. But when I drank the little bottle, I could feel it hit the center of my head. It would tingle all through my feet. And my immediate reaction was, oh, my God, there's tons of sugar. This is really bad. I'm going to be terribly sick. What have you given me? You know, like the negative response was very much there. But much to my surprise, I felt I had more focus. I had more mental clarity. And even though my immediate life circumstance hadn't changed, I found myself increasingly being happy for no reason.
How soon would you say from the time you started taking that, did you start to feel those kind of effects?
I felt it in the first 30 minutes. But then again, I'm very sensitive. Mm-hmm. I can't go through in the grocery stores where they have the laundry soap and the dish soap and all of these things. I will not walk through that aisle because the smell of these chemicals I can't handle. Or in a big department stores where these big perfume counters, I will not walk there. So I'm very sensitive that way. Mm-hmm. But most people feel it right away. And that's what makes this product so incredible, because once people try the product, they will never get off it. I have friends in St. Louis, Missouri, and the couple was helping their children pay their mortgage and raise their children, economic, very difficult times. And so that month they couldn't afford a canister for each of them. And the husband had all sorts of issues, and the wife as well were taking lots of meds and so on. And so they took one scoop of the Zeal and shared it among the two of them. And they were amazed on what the product did for them, to the point that the physiotherapist the husband went to said, "What's up with him? He actually said please and thank you. He's not his good old grouch anymore. What did you put in his coffee?" So there's a lot of good things out there, and I think once the student is ready, the opportunity shows up. And this is the product that I think also offers an incredible opportunity for people who are interested in making additional money, residual income. It's, in my opinion, the best business plan by far, because the company really seems to be aligned with universal law, and the more they give into the field, the more the field will give to them. And it's working for them, because when you listen to the television news, economy doesn't seem to be doing too good, but in the middle of what others call a recession, this company went from 5 million to 15 million to 65, and now they are up on to 100 million this year. And it's phenomenal. So I'm finding if I can use this product to help, as I said earlier, 1,000 people at least make an additional $1,000 residual income. Imagine what that would mean to families. They could be family members, be home with their children. They could make different choices as to what they could buy in the grocery store. They could maybe enroll a child into doing music class or swimming lessons, or it would mean that they may have a car that they previously didn't have, And I think when people, I heard some time ago in a talk, actually it's almost 20 years back, the gentleman said a human being can live so and so long without food, and he had the exact time. I forgot. You can live that long without water. You can actually live a couple of minutes without oxygen to your brain. But you can never live with one split second. You cannot live one split second without hope. And that's what
I agree with that. true.
You know, and sometimes when life is so dark and I thought I could not get it together and I'm just such a loser and I cannot get through this. I'm so tired. My body is not doing it, and I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I can't be at all for all kids. And, you know, eventually I was able to actually be pregnant again and have another child. So I have 3 sons and a daughter now. There were moments when I thought, I don't know, I can't do it anymore. And it's in that moment when I think of, yes, you can. You know, attitude increases altitude. Positive attitude, just one little step more. Even if you think you can't do it anymore, do a little step more, and then suddenly you meet somebody or somebody calls you or a book falls off the shelf or you switch on the radio and you hear this music and the music I think it was a Mariah Carey tune at the time. It was about there's a hero inside. You know, when you think you can't move on, you will find that there is a hero inside. And I remember, you know, being in the car crying my eyes out because it was one of those moments where I just said, I can't anymore. I'm finished. And then this music came on, and I went, yes. Maybe it's true. Maybe there is a hero inside of us all. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I personally want to thank you for pushing through all those times when you felt you couldn't go on because, you know, you're definitely an inspiration. I'm so grateful that you are here. And that I'm sorry for all that you've been through, but because I know, you know, with myself personally, when you get through that stuff, you just become more of who you really, really are. So I really want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Hildegard.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being who you are. And, you know, we are all standing on the shoulders of somebody else. If it wouldn't be for the people who came to me and inspired me and gave me this little sentence of wisdom and inspired me in whatever which way, I wouldn't have become who I am today. And I think we are all there to support each other. Sometimes we are teachers and sometimes we are students. And that's what makes life, for me, worthwhile. That's what sticks with us, regardless of the physical world around us. But that much I do know for sure because I experienced it. The consciousness you have when you drop the body, it sticks with you. And that's worthwhile supporting in others as well. And so I'm very grateful that you gave me that opportunity to be here with all of you tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Now, let me ask you, how much is the product, the Zeal? And just real quick, and then is there people can contact you if they're interested in finding out more about this, or maybe even as a business venture?
Yeah, or they can also go to zovida.com.
Okay, can you spell that?
ZURVITA. Zurvita.com /Hildegard, HILDEGARD. But they could call me, send me an email, but through that website, there's my phone number, there's a different email. They can contact me as well. And I'd recommend they call me because there's many things. Yes, you can get the product, but I can also be glad to explain to you how the business works, if that's something you are interested in as well. So, but if you wanted to answer your question as to price, it's $69.95 for a month's supply. And that includes a big canister. There is 400 grams of powder in that. And you also have 12 single-serving sample bottles included in that, which is nice because you can pop it into your gym bag or into your backpack or in your purse, and then just mix it with water, shake it, take it, and you are set to go. So it takes the guesswork out of nutrition, so you have your basis, and then everything else you do to nurture yourself once you're then at home and you cook your meal and you eat with your loved ones. That's great, but at least it gives you that superfood foundation. And the FDA actually recently labeled this product as a functional food. And that is an incredible accomplishment, and there's a lot of science behind it. And if people want to know that, I'd be glad to share that with them. So go to zurvita.com, ZURVITA.com/Hildegard, HILDEGARD, or call Misty, and we will connect.
Most definitely. Thank you so much. I'm excited. The thing I like about this product, I'll just throw my little bit in there, is that it seems to have like everything that you would need. It's got protein, it's got antioxidants, it's got so many wonderful ingredients, and it really seems to be all combined there within the one thing. It's very reasonable. So I'm very excited to try it. And so I do hope that if anybody feels guided, they do contact Hildegard. And I want to ask, does anybody have any questions so far? I'd like to open up the call to if anybody has any comments or questions. Or this has been so much information, and I think I could probably have about 3 more calls and ask all kinds of questions from so far, just everything that you told me. But does anybody else have any questions?
Well, I'll just say hi. This is Sunny, and I've listened to you the whole time with very few, if any, distractions. So it was very interesting, the story you told, and wow, I guess I'll just say that I was listened with great interest, and I sure have my challenges right now, health-wise. I've tried all my life, but I won't go into my story now. But Misty knows something about it. But anyway, I've tried many things that haven't seemed to work, and worked on myself spiritually and with my body and organically and all kinds of things. So anyway, so I really, when someone really makes a change and makes a transition like you have, it's quite it's interesting to me, certainly, to hear your story, and maybe I'll get in touch with you.
Thank you so much, certainly. And, all health challenges that I was told, I said, well, why do I have to be sick? And I was told that I was never going to listen to my soul and my inner voice unless the body would have been disabled. So I had to lie down. And I had a lot of time to think and contemplate, because I was such a crazy workaholic, doing it all for all people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether that is true, but that was
I'm not like that. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I had a pretty, quiet life. Most especially my older, and then I live alone, and I have a lot of time to work on my spiritual life and go within and do all those things. So I have been doing all those things.
Wonderful.
But anyway, yeah. So
again, it's just one story, it's just my experience, and it's never true for everybody, because we are all unique. And that's
I
why
agree.
There is not a one-size-fits-all for everybody, and we are the experts at our own health, and I think that's the key. You know yourself. You live in your skin. You feel what's going on in you, and nobody can tell you what's right for you. You have to trust yourself.
I really do believe that, and I believe that that's how I'm being directed constantly. Because how many suggestions people have made to me as to what to do, and with good intentions, and I follow them. If they aren't too expensive or too outlandish, I'll try things, but I have not yet. Anyway, it all kind of directs me back to I'm the only one that can really know. So that's pretty much the path I'm on, and So I know we were all on a unique path, and that's, yeah.
Exactly. And we can never judge anybody by our own experience because it isn't relevant. This is why I find it so key to stay out of judgment. Judgment of myself or somebody else, because we never can have the full picture.
Well, that's absolutely true. I really agree with that. I mean, there have been people in my life that have tried to direct me and think what was right for me, and it's what, in my essence, it just rebelled against that kind of thing. Especially later, especially in this later part of my life here. So I'm doing the best we can.
Use that inner guidance, and what Hildegard said before about, like, when we're operating in, are we operating in fear or in love? Are we making decisions based on fear stuff or love? And it gets really tricky to try to discern what that is, because fear's there for a reason, like as an instinct, but then determining, what kind of role that's going to play in your decision making or your life. But I wanted to bring up something. Somebody had told me this story. It just popped into my mind. But she had gone into the hospital for a blockage. She was having pain in her abdomen. And they did an X-ray. They did a scan, whatever they do there at the hospital. And they said, you've got a blockage, and we have to remove the majority, or at least a third of your intestine, or colon, right now. And she's like, what? I think I want a second opinion. I'm not sure about this. She was all by herself. She went over. She ended up leaving. She said, "You know what? I'm gonna go down the way." She went to another hospital. They saw her. They examined her, and there was no blockage. And the reason that I just say that is that she had something really strong in her that said, "Don't do this." And do this and speak up for yourself. And I know I've had experiences like that. I have had many where I've had to find my voice, or, when somebody's trying to get you to try this or do something. But, I just say, I think that we're all so much better on the path to using our discernment and understanding that we can trust ourselves, being able to identify what's us, what's fear, what's nonsense, what's real, as best we can.
Well, yes, that's exactly what I had to face and deal with, is a blockage. And but at the time, I felt that I had to go ahead with what they felt they needed to do. I mean, that was put right on the spot.
And you've never made a mistake in your life. I don't think you've ever made a mistake in your life. You've done everything that I believe, everything you were supposed to, everything. You've never made a mistake. No, I don't feel that was a mistake, although it left an indelible mark on my body and inside and out. It's nothing that won't be reversed, but nevertheless, that was what I felt at the time. I felt I had to face my fear of having that surgery, and I just had to go for it, which is what I did. But now it's after 4 hospital visits, and the last one being in March. I don't want to go back. I feel I should not go back, even though there are times when the pain gets bad, and so it's a constant balancing act, of knowing, not operating out of fear, and then just moving onward and doing what I can now, to keep me from going back in the hospital, because I know what will happen if I go back. It'll just be the same old story. And so...
Well, I had the privilege of interviewing a lady once. She was practicing what she called New German medicine. And she said to me, you got to consider that the hospital can operate within a certain frame of reference. They're perfectly able to diagnose something. Mm-hmm. they can then choose to medicate or they can surgically remove. But they cannot do anything beyond that. And her particular technique, which was developed by a German doctor, he was actually an oncologist in Munich at some point. His name is Dr. Hamer, Hamer, I think. And he discovered he had cancer, apparently, while he was in charge of his oncology department. And the cancer had set on after the sudden loss of one of his sons. And he, from his medical perspective, thought, well, that is strange. And now, how ironic, I'm in charge of 190 patients who have cancer, and now I have testicular cancer myself. And he looked for answers, and he did CAT scans on all these patients and spent a lot of time talking to them to figure out what went on in their lives and so on. And so he discovered a correlation between a sudden unexpected trauma and the formation of dark circles on in the brain. Like, it showed up at dark circles at the CAT scan. And then when he worked and talked to these people and they discovered what was actually the process of, the trauma that had happened to them, and when they became aware that there was actually a correlation, suddenly when he did the CAT scan again, he could see how the dark circles in the brain disappeared and how these circles also relate to certain parts of the body. And when he saw the darkness of the circles in the brain CAT scan disappear, the healing would happen in the body. And needless to say, the man wasn't very popular in his with his colleagues and the system. I think he lives now in Norway or Denmark. He's not living in Germany. But apparently he did a lot of good to a lot of people because he looked at the emotional and soul connections to a certain illness in this particular case. I think he was an expert in cancer. Now, I'm not sure whether that is true for everything, but that really made me think.
I can attest for that. I can attest to that. My mother had cancer 3 times, and each onset was following a traumatic event within a year and a half of a traumatic event. Each one, the most traumatic events of her life. So when I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, I've studied and learned so much that I truly believe that things don't happen on the physical. They happen in the spiritual realm and the other realms as well. I sometimes wonder if they're caused in the emotional body, they can happen all different places, but I can certainly see the correlation.
Oh, yes. It seems to be something, yeah, for sure.
I see that too, yeah.
So does anybody else have any other questions or any comments? This has been a great show. I've thoroughly enjoyed everything that you've had to say, Hildegard. I could listen to you for hours.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Well, if there are no other questions or comments or anything, I'd really like to thank you again, and I'd like to close up, but I realized I forgot to say the Law of One prayer, and it'd be good for us to end on it, if that's okay. And I want to say a special, special prayer for Sunny, and that you are experiencing healing as we speak. But I'll go ahead and call in the guides, our guides, our higher selves, the Andromedans, the Galactics, all interdimensional beings and who are of the highest good of all concerned. I invite you all, I hope that you'll say this prayer with me, either silently or out loud. We are powerful creators, and We create with our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So with that, I would like to go ahead and say that we are all one. And when one is harmed, all are harmed. And when one is helped, all are helped. And therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all that is, I ask that only that which is in the highest good of all concerned happen. And I give thanks that this is done. So be it, and so it is.
And so it is.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I encourage anybody who listen to this, if they feel drawn, please contact Hildegard and or myself. I can be reached at mistellinstar@gmail.com. That's MISTILYNSTAR@gmail.com. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Are you looking for healing or a change in your life to help you enjoy it more fully? You might benefit from a galactic energy reading and clearing from Chris Jacobs. Chris will work with you on a soul level to clear unseen negative influences, implants, programs, contracts, and energetic blocks. Chris Jacobs is a gifted energy healer. Contact him today at ChristopherStephenJacobs@gmail.com.